Mating bagadola, smisherere, Agasashinaasta brain, Mien and Chapatil. Good morning, everyone. I'm Rachel, and we're still talking about the alphabet, or rather, how to pronounce stuff in Scottish Gaelic. We've covered the concepts of lenition and slenderization, and last week we spent quite a long time looking at all the consonants, so this week it's vowels, which will hopefully not be quite as long as the consonants last week. So, as you'll recall, this is the 17 letters of the Gaelic alphabet, and 5 of those are vowels. This probably won't surprise you, because they're the same 5 letters that are vowels in English, but Welsh uses Y and W as vowels, so yeah, you can never be too sure, but yes, 5 vowels in Gaelic. And they're fairly straightforward vowels. They're your usual set of 5, A, E, O, And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching this video on vowels, and I hope you enjoyed it. Wait. Oh, yes, sorry. I've just got a message saying, from someone who doesn't speak a language with diacritic marks, saying, why is it that sometimes there's little hats on my vowels? Are they just there so that Duolingo can tell me I've spelled it wrong? No, those are called strachen, or accents, and they do actually perform a function. And this is where things get complicated. Sort of. Not pronunciation-wise, but like spelling-wise, because most of you are probably learning something that adheres to this, the Gaelic orthographic conventions, which were invented in the 80s. And amongst other things, only mentions one sort of accent. But, and it's quite common for people to say, oh, well, if it's Irish, the accent is facing this way, and if it's Scottish, the accent is facing that way. But if you're in Canada, or if you're in some bits of Australia, or if you're learning from a book that was published before the 80s, you're probably seeing accents going the other way too. So I will explain that. So first we have the stacata, or the long accent. Basically does what it says on the tin. It makes the vowel go for longer. So you go from a to a, from e to e, from I to e, from o to o, and from u to oo. There's not too much else to explain. That's most of the time when you see an accent, it's the strachgata. It will always be facing that way because that's the way all accents face according to the new spelling rules. And basically, just pronounce that vowel for as long as you possibly can, longer than you think you should be. You can't hold on to this vowel for too long. And there are, of course, some words where how long you're holding on to the vowel makes a difference. The most inoffensive of these is probably bata, which is a walking stick, and bata, which is a boat. The more offensive example of this is feis, which is a festival, and feis, which is something that you can look up in the dictionary yourself. And that, of course, brings us to the strachir, which is the sharp accent. And basically what that does is makes the vowel higher in your mouth. Not higher pitched, but just higher in terms of place of articulation. Let me bring the vowel chart back. So what we have is we go from a to a, from e to e, and from o to o. E and u obviously aren't affected because they can't really get any higher in your mouth, as you can see here. So not all dialects make this distinction anymore. And in fact, most of the more widely spoken ones don't, which is why it was dropped from the Goth. If you're in Cape Breton, or if you're learning a more southerly or mainland dialect, it might be a distinction that you're going to encounter, and you might want to represent it in your spelling. Or you might not. I would say it's up to you. Proponents of the Goth would probably disagree with me, and the more avid anti-Gothers in the world would probably also disagree with me and tell you you're weak for not learning to make the distinction. I think it really does depend on the dialect that you're using, and you should defer to what is being used by the speakers, especially the native speakers, and the more experienced people around you. I would say don't insist on using the Strachgeir if no one around you does, and if the dialect you're learning doesn't make the distinction. There's just no point. It's just a bit annoying. But on the other hand, again, if you might be learning a dialect that makes this distinction, so I'm covering it here just in case. And I do think it's interesting because these sounds are historically different. You do still encounter some words where this distinction is important. You'll see the Strachgeir used to be used on the AN diminutive ending, but not on the AN plural ending. So you do get a difference between Lochan, as in many lakes, and Lochan, as in like a little lake. So yeah, just things like that that I, being a geek, find interesting and thought you might do. So what about when there's more than one vowel there? You maybe have seen the what I can only call extremely exhaustive list of diphthongs and triphthongs that's up on Wikipedia. And this might have terrified you slightly. Calm down. Basically, go with what the first vowel says, unless the second one has an accent on it. If you go with that, that will be basically have you covered. And keep your ear out for what's happening, but generally pronounce the first vowel unless there's an accent on the second one. There are, of course, a few exceptions, and the two main ones are this one, EU, which some people will pronounce ear and some people will pronounce air. It's sort of a dialect thing, it's sort of an age thing. It's a bit of both, but that's one to watch out for, ear and air. And the other one is this E-O father, which majority of people will pronounce yo, but there are some dialects that pronounce it something more like
Heo, heo.
and that's basically it for diphthongs. But there is actually another vowel that I didn't mention with those 5 vowels, and that is E, which is written A-O usually, and that's when it's really long. And also AGH or ADH, and that's when it's short. This is a vowel that's in my name, so Rönich. And that's a back unrounded vowel. It could be any one of these 3 things, and it does vary, but I go with E, it's something like that. So to pronounce this sound, because it doesn't exist in English, what you need to do is make the sound oo, which you do know how to say, but you'll notice when you do it, your lips are all scrunched up. Ooh, ooh. So what you need to do is smile as you say that sound, and that makes it ee, ee. Your tongue is in exactly the same position, but you're smiling instead of making that sort of face. So, ooh, ee. And then there's what looks like a triphthong. It looks like there's 3 vowels there, but it's actually just 2 of them. So that's A, A. And that really is everything, at least that I can think of to say about vowels. So this has been part 3 of how to pronounce Scottish Gaelic. And next week we'll be looking at some of the different places that lenition and slenderization happen, because we've talked about what it is and we've talked about how to actually produce these sounds. Next it's okay, so when does that happen? So that'll be next Thursday, and Monday probably a song. Cheery and Drasta.